Welcome to episode 21 of Podnutz. Thanks everybody for downloading and listening to this podcast. I'm going to be doing this show solo today. There's not going to be a guest. And I think I'm going to do that every once in a while just to clear my mind and go over some of the things that have accumulated that I'd like to talk about. Just to recap, for those of you who don't know, my name's Steve Cherubino. I started this podcast in February of this year. And I've been loving every minute of it. I'm glad anybody who's listening is enjoying it. I own a computer repair shop right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here in the States. And basically, personally, since I started the podcast, I've learned so many things, I feel, through my work at the shop and through those last couple months, that I just want to take some time today and just do like a general overview of some of the things that I've learned and share them with you guys. For example, in the shop, it's just me and my dad. We're the only two employees. So it's not like we have a huge team of people there giving us input and their opinions and their ideas every day. So we have to find out a lot of stuff on our own. I found there's some things online I found that have helped me out and keep me on top of my game. For example, podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time, and I found that on several occasions, they've helped me out on the job in solving computer problems that I would not have known the answer to before. Let me just go over some of the podcasts I like. Now, some of them are not like a computer repair podcast. Most of them are actually tech news podcasts. They're all technical in some way, but even the tech news podcasts are great because you'll find out what's the latest thing or the latest bug or the latest virus that's going around, and even though they're broadcasting it as news, I'll use that information as a tech. Some of my favorite podcasts are almost everything on the Twit network, specifically This Week in Tech, Security Now, Windows Weekly, Mac Break Weekly, and I started listening to Mac Break Weekly before I became a Mac user. I'm not going to say that Mac Break Weekly tipped the scales to make me a Mac user. I think that happened through my distaste with Vista. But you can listen to Mac Break Weekly and not be a Mac user and still get a lot of information out of it, mainly because a lot of times they go into so many rat holes that half the show is not about Macintosh. And one time there was actually Patrick Wilson from Weezer as a guest host, and they talked all about the music industry. And since I'm a musician, I actually loved that episode, but I think a lot of the tech guys who were listening didn't appreciate that too much. But most of them did. It was entertaining. The point is, listen to Mac Break Weekly, even if you're not a Mac user. I think you'll still get some info out of that. I've gone on a quest and looked at many and listened to many different podcasts to see what's out there and what's good. I especially did this after I started my own podcast just to get a basis of comparison. And though there's lots of podcasts out there, tons of podcasts out there, I'm actually still looking for good ones. So if anybody has any good tips for me, like a great tech podcast, something that can help a computer repair technician, I'd love to know what it is. Some of the other ones I watch are actually the video podcasts or the Revision 3 podcasts like Techzilla and System. They're always interesting. CNET TV has some good video podcasts. I watch Loaded just to get a quick shot of the news. And CNET TV, no, CNET Live it's called, with Tom Merritt. I don't know if they still do that. It's great because it's a live show, and I love live stuff because nothing is really scripted, and you kind of find out what makes the people who are doing the show tick when it's live. PC Mag Radio is a great audio podcast I listen to. That was one that I found on iTunes, and I was surprisingly impressed with it. It gets very technical at some points, which I like, and the people who do that podcast are very, very smart. May seem a little nerdy at times, some of them, but they're very smart, and I think they keep it very interesting. Buzz Out Loud I listen to almost every day just to keep abreast on the tech news, and I think John C. Dvorak's best podcast is Tech 5. I listen to him on Twit, and I didn't have a strong, favorable opinion about him from listening to him on This Week in Tech until I started listening to Tech 5, and because it's just him. So he doesn't have anybody to argue with. So he kind of just settles down a little bit and speaks his mind, and it's quite good. Listen to Tech 5 if you haven't listened to that. It's like a 5-minute show of John C. Dvorak doing tech. I like I said, I like a lot of live shows. I love things that aren't scripted. I don't know about you guys, but with network TV, the way it is, and the radio, which is, I can't travel 5 minutes in my car with the radio on without hearing a commercial. Everything's either scripted, so a monkey could just sit there and read it, or it's all commercials or advertisements. And I made sure my podcast is not going to be like that. I might stumble across my words a lot during my show, or not know what I'm going to say, or say a lot. But I feel like that's the way I want to do it. I love the live feel. I don't like scripted things because I think it's a skill that has to be acquired to be able to read something off of a piece of paper into a microphone and have the person on the other end who's listening feel like you're not reading something off of a piece of paper. Some people are great at doing it, but I think it's an acquired skill. And those who are bad at doing it, I feel like they're not actually talking to me when they're reading something. They're just trying to read something to themselves. And I want to be talked to when I'm listening to a podcast. That's just the way I feel. And I like shows that are like that. That's why I love the Twit Network, because it's a group of guys. They all get together, or girls, and they just talk, and whenever somebody has an idea, they chime in. And that is what I hope that media is going to go into in the future. Now, I know I'm going off the subject a little bit, but I don't know. I felt like I had to talk about my opinion on podcasting and live broadcasting, or broadcasting in general. I actually haven't watched my TV, my cable television, in about 4 months. I'm returning my cable box. I'm just keeping my internet connection. I have an Apple TV hooked up, and I'm just going to watch podcasts, listen to podcasts, and I'm perfectly happy with that. Okay, back on the subject. Other than listening to podcasts, the way that I learn how to do the computer repairs that I do is, 1, past experience. 2, anything I don't know how to do, I will Google it, and I will almost always find the answer. And 3, you just learn things on the fly, like learning on the job. Now, my experience is not very, not very formal. But I would call it extensive, because I'm self-taught in a lot of the things that I do. And being self-taught these days means, like, you can actually go online and learn a lot of things, which is almost like doing a course. But as far as formal training, I don't have any certs. I didn't go to college for computers. I started out as a computer engineer for a few years, but that was very math-oriented, and I didn't quite stick with that. When I went to college, I don't think I was really ready to go to college, if you know what I mean. I had a little growing up to do. But I'm over that now.